All right. Hey, welcome to, I think it's now the 11th Nordeast Comics Summit, which is pretty cool. So today we're going to do basically part 2 of talking about some of the basic programs that you as a cartoonist may want to know. Last time we talked about Photoshop. Where you can edit your images. Now we're going to be talking about InDesign, which I think is maybe the most obscure of the programs. But it's a great tool that allows you to take your images and compile them into a book, PDF. You can export as an EPUB to look on iPad. I'm not going to get into that today. I don't really know how to do that. Right now I'm just going to talk about the basics. So if you have InDesign but haven't cracked it open, this is, I'll introduce you to some of the basic tools, and if you've thought about spending the $800 or whatever that I think it is, this may sway that opinion. So, a couple things. First of all, our good friend Nick Strait was supposed to be here, sort of co-introducing InDesign, because he's a lot better at it than I am. He couldn't make it, but he was nice enough to make this entire sheet full of like keyboard shortcuts and stuff for InDesign. So those are all going to be sitting over there. And they're on cardstock too, which, how nice is that? It's the little things. And then Loopy wanted me to mention that Altered Aesthetics, our good friend and friend gallery down the street, is looking for submissions for a video game theme show that's coming up. And Loopy, do you want to say anything more about that? When the submissions are due?
We do the video game show every couple years. This time around, the video game art show is also going to highlight obsolete technology. So if anyone has something that might fit with that, grab a flyer on the way out, because the deadline's coming up really soon on February 15th. If you have something in progress or if you have an idea, go ahead and email the exhibitions director anyway, because if you have something that you're already working on but might not be finished in time, she might be able to give you an extension. We also have a lot of cool events coming up this month, and those are on smaller flyers up there too.
Yep, so all the takeaways and handouts are right over there by Mike. And as always, really, if you have any questions that come up, or you want to challenge how I do something in InDesign, just shout it out. I think that's half the fun of this.
Is InDesign pit fighting?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So, here we go. All right, Steve is a zoo. I had some notes for this, but I didn't print them out, so I'm just going to kind of wing it. The framework for the talk today is I'm pretending that I have a 4-page mini comic that I'd like to put into a PDF. So that's where we're starting out. And as you'll see, I drew up some pages for this to prep for this, and it's the worst mini comic you will ever read in your life, which is half the fun. So let's open up InDesign to start off. Apple N, new, and so this is the dialog box that you see. I have a 4-page mini, so right here I'm just going to type in 4. If you do facing pages, the view that you'll see will be that. It'll be your 2 pages facing next to each other, and that's really nice because you can basically see what the book is going to look like when you print it out. I'm not going to do that though. I'm just going to do one at a time. No, actually, I will do facing pages. Why not? What's my size? Let's go 425 inches, and just like in Photoshop, you can change the increments. You could do this in picas or centimeters if you're Canadian or whatever.
But you have to know all of this ahead of time when you make the new file, or do you adjust it as you go? Or? You
can adjust it as you go. I highly recommend doing some planning beforehand. Okay. And if you've already created the images that you're going to be doing, you probably already know it. And also, most of the time you're going to be doing this, you're going to be exporting these or getting these printed, and so you'll know from the printer, like, oh, this is going to be a letter size thing with a 4-inch bleed or something like that. All right, so let's jump in here. And so here's what you see right off the bat. So the black line represents the edge of your page. The purple line is your margin. That basically, you can adjust that. To me, that says, keep all the sort of the hot information, inside that line. And I think if we go here, we can change bleeds too. No. Well, it's document setup is what I meant. Thanks. All right, so a bleed is when you have artwork that basically spills off the edge of the page. And if you're just doing something for the web, you can just basically have your art creep right up to the edge of your page. But when you're printing, you want to basically extend that outside of it, because when the pages are eventually cut, the cutting machine may be off a little bit, and anyway, you want to have some trim there. So let's do a 0.5 all the way around. And so the red line basically tells you that's where your bleed is. And again, your client or your the printer may say, oh, we need a 0.5 inch bleed for this. Sorry, this is super boring. Let me get to some fun stuff here. So over here, these are a lot of the windows that you'll be using. Pages, which is nice, so shows you a bird's eye view of your entire document. So here we have a 4-page document. Obviously, if you're looking at a mini comic, the first thing you're going to see is just the single page. Then you open it up, and you can see the spread here. Isn't that nice? And here's page 4. So let's see, layers. Layers, this is just like Illustrator and Photoshop. For me, let's do an art layer. I like to separate things as much as possible. And just like Photoshop and Illustrator, you can click the eyeball and turn it off. Obviously, there's nothing there yet. So why don't we start by putting in some artwork. So double-click on page 1, and I hit Apple D to place. And so I'm going to go to the desktop and find some of the artwork that I made. And now, so the cursor basically represents the upper left-hand side of the artwork. And here's a little thumbnail that's telling me where to go. So if the page I created here is exactly the same size as the Photoshop document, I should be able to click in the upper left-hand corner. Yep, come on in. And it should fill the entire page. So let's see if I did this right. Hey, there we go.
So it's scaling it automatically?
It's not scaling it. The thing you saw before was just like a little preview thumbnail. Basically, this image.
It's already because it matches the size.
Yeah.
Carefully
It's
pick
the
this
exact same size.
Yep. And so I'll go ahead and double click on 2. I'll do the same thing for 2. And Ryan, you mentioned before about like auto filling or auto placing.
Well, yeah, like I don't know if this version of it has it, but like if you drag the image around, eventually you'll see like a, like if you click on the image and drag it around,
Yeah.
eventually if you get it centered, or at least on the version I have, like you'll see a line come up.
Oh, yeah.
It's a feature you might have to turn on.
Yeah, but it's
Okay.
not that big of a deal. I mean, especially if your image takes up the whole page.
Well, let's. I think one day I'd like to do sort of a 200 level of InDesign. So let's definitely put a pin in that for that. Oops.
I mean, just the fact that the place image is so different from what I used before InDesign. So.
Yeah, and tell us what's the name of that program that you use?
Scribus.
Okay,
It's
and it's
basically like a freeware version, but it's not as robust and it's not as easy to use.
okay, but it's free.
But it's free!
And it does export PDFs, so.
Nice. So there's our. So there's
Did
the
you say
comic.
this was the best main comic?
No, I'm sorry. I misrepresented it. This is what 15 minutes and a Wacom will get you. All right, so we now, basically at this point, we could hit export. And why don't we do a quick one? So we can make a PDF just from this. We've got all 4 of our pictures placed, everything's set up. So let's save it. I should emphasize that. So let's call this, I can't read with that light in the way, but let's assume I said awesome mini. So it's close enough. All right. So there's shortcuts for this, but basically you can go Apple E or go down to export. And all right, we're right. Again, you have a lot of options. Just for this demonstration, we'll stick with print because you want to print it, let's say. And here's a little dialog box that comes up. So this is fun. You have a lot of options here. I don't know what about 3/4 of these mean. But if I want a high quality print, somebody nicely named this option high quality print. Let's see. The other one I'll use, these are some presets that I made for other jobs. The other one I'll use is smallest file size. So if I have a huge book and a client just needs to review the book, and the artwork doesn't need to be pristine, I'll probably do smallest file size. But since this is such a small document, I'm going to do high quality print. Now here, we're making a PDF, and if I was going to print this, I would keep this as is, but if I wanted to preview it on my computer, I might hit spreads, and then basically then you're reading the book, basically 2 pages up, just like you would if you were actually physically holding the book. So why don't we do that just for fun's sake? And I kind of ignore a lot of all this stuff. Compression is good. I think the images that I popped in there are bitmap. They're 1200 DPI bitmap, which we talked about last time. And so if I felt like shrinking that, I could change this to 300, but I have absolutely no reason to do that because as we talked about last time, bitmap files are super small. So I'm just going to leave that as is. But again, if you have color images, you can manually adjust the compression on those. And marks and bleeds, just for fun, let's put in some crop marks and some bleed marks. And we're going to tell the computer to use the bleed settings that we put in earlier, which it knows it's 1/2 inch. So let's hit export. And this is too fast, but up here you see a little timer thing that tells you that it's working. So anyway, let's go down to this thing. And let's find our PDF. So here it is. I guess I did spell that wrong.
Be a great character name, Asim.
Yeah. So here's our PDF. You can see the crop marks and stuff. That's pretty fun. Sometimes printers will require you to do that. They have their reasons. And here's what I was talking about, where you can see the book two up. And so this is great if I'm like, just kind of proofreading the book or whatever. Not a lot to proofread here, but I might want to use this to see what it looks like, and that's it. So I think we're about, so that's the absolute basics. And I'm going to go into some fun stuff like master pages and how to add some page numbers. And any questions as we're rolling here?
What's that little notch out of the bottom?
That's a great question.
That's room for his page numbers.
Exactly right.
What version are we working with?
This is CS5.
Okay.
Yep. So, yeah. So my next thing is I want to put some page numbers in these little notches that I had. So what is a master? A master up here, it's a meta page that if you put anything on the master, it will appear on every single page of your document. So you've got a lot of power that you're working with here. So I'm going to double click on that. Obviously it's blank because we haven't added anything. So just for fun, it's just, it's not very fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, there are. To each his own, I guess. Here's another thing that I like to use. You've got swatches over here, and again, this is just mostly like Illustrator. I don't know if you guys have used this before, but this outline in black is telling me that my object that I'm linked to right here, the outline is black. I can hit, it's hard to see, but these are little arrows, and if I click that, it basically swaps it out. So now the fill is black, and the outline is nothing. So let's click on the fill, let's make that cyan, and so I clicked on the outline there, let's make that magenta. And that's a lot more fun right there. So so again, we're in the master environment, and again the master, because we said show the both pages. This object right here should show only on the left-hand pages, and let's do another one over here, and let's switch that up, and so these should appear on the right-hand pages. So let's go back to pages up here, and you can already see. Basically, it's on there.
So they're on the bottom and the art comes on the top.
Yeah, actually, good point. Let's talk about layers a little bit. So we created this art layer, and that's what I want this art to be in. But let's do another layer, and let's call this random shapes. And so currently the random shapes layer is above the artwork. So let's hit pages, let's double click on the master. And so I'm going to click on that. I'm going to hit Apple X to cut it. It's gone. And now I'm going to go into layers. I'm going to click on the top one, and I'm going to hit, this is so screwy, but it's like Shift Option Apple V. And that's paste in place. So that puts it exactly where it was, but now we're on the top layer. So let's go back to pages, double click, and now it's above. And that's the beauty of layers, is if I all of a sudden want to drop it underneath art, I can do that instantly. And that's why I would recommend, if you're going to layer stuff like that, do as many layers as possible, because it just gives you maximum flexibility.
But in the master, by default, everything is on the bottom layer, right?
On the bottom of each layer that
Yeah.
it's on, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think it's whatever, yeah, exactly. But it's whatever layer you're in when you go into the master to make those changes.
Oh,
And like
okay.
before, we only had one layer, so yeah, it went to the bottom. You know, I kind of like those shapes. I'm going to keep that, but I am going to, let's go back up to the master, and let's just move this to the bottom too. So Apple X to get rid of that. So we'll click on the master. Oh, make sure we're in the right layer. We are. And Shift Option Apple V. Boom. Okay. And somebody said we should do page numbers, which is such a great idea. So we're in layers. Let's do another layer called page numbers. Or folios, or whatever you want to call it. And now, another thing I'm going to do right now is, I don't want to mess up these other layers that I've done, so I'm just going to lock these so I don't accidentally do anything to them. So, we are in the master. Let's say that's where we want our page number for now. Let's go to Edit. I haven't used this in a while. Let's go to, I think it's Type, Insert Special Character, Markers. Why is that not working?
You know, selecting the text inside.
What's that?
You have to select the text.
Oh,
inside.
that's right. There we go. So, the text is selected, like I should have done, and let's go Insert Special Character, Markers, Current Page Number. Now we're in the master, so it's just going to say A, obviously, because we're not on an actual page. But now, let's position that where I want. Let's go to Character. I'm going to make it one of my fancy fonts here. That looks fine. And yeah, okay. So that's where I want that to be positioned. I'm going to copy that, come over here, and let's do another one. So I'm going to have page numbers on both pages. Okay, so that's it for that. But now, obviously, we have to check it out and see if I did it right. So let's go to Pages, and page 1. And you can see it's not quite right. I'm going to have to move it down. Let's check the other ones. Off again, off. And that one's close.
1 out of 4.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Alright, so I'm just going to make a mental note that I want to drop this down underneath the bar.
So there's no way to have a preview of any of the pages when you're moving the master
You,
page number.
I'm going to defer to Gordon.
Not really, because I mean, you could potentially have hundreds of pages
Right,
in a
right.
document that all use the same master page.
Mm.
So, I mean, the best you can do is just click over to a page that uses it and preview it.
Cool. Alright, let's see how we're doing now. That one looks good. That one looks great. Awesome. Oh man, what happened there? This is actually great. Let's pretend I planned it this way, because what I'm going to do is, let's say I want to edit the drawing to better reflect, or whatever. Let's say I made some mistakes in the drawing, so this is fun. So let's go to our layers, and it's in the art layer, so let's unclick the lock, click the layer. So what I'm going to do is, I think either control click or right click, and I'm going to go into Edit Original. And so this is great. It's great that everything is, all these computer programs are done by Adobe and all talk to each other, because now this is the original artwork and it's popped up in Photoshop. So any change that I make to this and hit save, it's automatically going to then show up in InDesign. So I think, let me see. Alright, so I just wanted to clean up the tail of this over here, so let's do that. Let's get my pencil tool, let's Let's make it a little bit bigger. Oh, that's on the wall, actually. We'll leave it.
I try to erase shit on my monitor all the time.
Again, all part of the program here. So we're gonna hit save and Apple W to close out. And once we click on this, we should see some magic. Hey, look at that. All right. So,
Kevin, does it
yeah.
import JPEGs, or will it take right straight in as a Photoshop file?
These are Photoshop files. Yeah, you can do JPEGs. You can do, I think,
So you can bring it in any form.
pretty much any form. Yep.
Yeah.
So
All
yeah.
the stuff from Illustrator, AI files and
Yep.
stuff.
Yep, you can do those, EPSs, all that fun stuff. And those are nice because when you export as a PDF, then I think it retains the vectorness of
Yep.
it,
Oh.
which is fancy. All right, man, we're close to having an Eisner-nominated book here, so let's go back to pages. Trying to think of what else we might need here. How are we doing on time? Can anybody see the clock?
5 minutes.
We have 5 minutes? Okay. Well, actually, I'll show you one more thing in those 5 minutes, and then I'll let you guys go. So I told you before that the artwork is all bitmaps. And so a cool thing that I found, and I think this is only for bitmaps and not for grayscale, but Gordon, you can correct me, is you go to the white arrow tool, click on your artwork, and then go to swatches, and you can click on anything, and basically, remember the bitmap file, it's basically ones and zeros, it's white and black, and so anything that's black in your bitmap file will become the color that you chose here.
That will work on grayscale.
It will work on grayscale. Okay, I've been living a lie this whole time, but and so this is nice because let's say you want, like a lot of times in my comics, I want sort of a dark blue line art over the color layer, and so I'll do that in InDesign. I'll have the color layer behind this where our little blue box is, and then the line art. I'll just play around with this. Oops.
So you're coloring in InDesign as opposed to Photoshop?
Basically, well, yeah, I'm setting the color for the line art, and so when I export, it'll tell the printer, for this, this much cyan, this much magenta, this much yellow, this much black. But that's a good question, because let's say I go back to the original. So we'll right click, edit original. It's still the same black and white bitmap file. All right, so let's be done with that. Save it, Apple E to export it again. Let's call this mini version 2. And I'm gonna not do spreads this time. Compression's good, let's export it. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's get rid of these, I don't want those. And we don't need to bleed on this particular image, so let's uncheck that. And here's your little timer thing, it's done. Alright, let's go back to our file, V2, let's see how we did. So yeah, so there's our PDF. And
Yay!
yeah, thanks.
When can we find it?
Yeah, this will be available through Smash Books or whatever.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have time to get into the whole weird pagination thing of doing like a quarter-size comic or something.
Yeah.
Like, but
Oh, do you mean like basically setting up the layout so that when you print it off, you can like fold it?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have time for that. We do have time for questions though, if anybody has anything.
Well, so is there a setting in InDesign where you can set up the pagination that way, so that if you print it off, you...
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know either.
Gordon?
It would be
I-
cool if there was.
I've never done it. I think you can do some different kinds of paginations. I know you can do printer spreads, but if you like do like weird folds and stuff, you might not be able to do that.
But you could do it 4 up on a sheet.
I think so. Yeah.
All right, well let's call it a day then. Thanks everybody for coming out. I can't remember the exact schedule. I think Adrian Clark is going to be here next month talking about how to actually make an ebook through, I think it's called Smash Books. I might be saying that wrong.
Smashwords, I think.
Smashwords, that's it, yep. So she's going to be here, and you're going to learn a lot about ebooks and stuff. And
Well,
Xander has a
I have
question.
one other thing to say about PDFs. If you don't have $800 to buy,
Yeah.
there are a lot of Google Docs has a you could just if you import or replace images into Google Docs at a certain resolution, you can just export as a PDF, and
Great.
it works. It's free on the web.
Very cool. All right, thanks guys. Cartoonist Conspiracy starts right now downstairs, and have fun.